All right, welcome back to another tutorial in Maya. Okay, today let's take a look at Boris. Boris was created by James Stone over there at jamesstone.co.uk, obviously from the UK. So thank you, James. He created this really cool facial rig and put it up for free over on Creative Crash. Okay, so for this tutorial, we're going to be using Boris to attach some hair. Okay, maybe a mustache, a goatee, I don't know, whatever you want to do. This tutorial is not about using this as a facial control rig, although it's a great rig because we can do so many things with it. It has some blend shapes here for some facial expressions and whatnot that you can animate. And it also has a really good mesh we can work with to learn a little bit more about how to apply whiskers or hair or sort of get started in that realm. So Boris is totally bald right here, which makes him a good candidate for some hair. Okay, so we're going to be working with that. So go over to Creative Crash, get a username and password, sign in, get this whole thing done so that you can use Creative Crash as a pretty good resource for models and all sorts of other stuff. Okay? So there you go. Now, when you open up Boris in Maya, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to get a file and put it in, your master folder or something like that. Mine's just in my, Creative Crash archive rig, and there he is. And you'll get a .mb file like this inside of that zip folder. Okay, so just open that up. Actually, I just created a new scene and then imported this file because it's probably better to do that. That way this original file always stays intact. So just import this .mb file into a new project or a new scene. Okay? And essentially, that's what Boris looks like. Here's what he looks like as a render. And he looks pretty mean. So I think what I'll do is just maybe start out with him looking a little more friendly. Okay, so we'll put that up. Remember, you can animate all of these little controls over here, and you can make his face do all sorts of different things. You can make his eyebrows come up or down, whatever you want to do. But for now, we're going to add some hair to Boris. So we'll do some of this stuff later, these controls, and we'll go over this later. Right now, what we want to do is get some hair on Boris. So this is a pretty easy task with this model because if you come into your window and come down to your UV texture editor, you'll get a window, and if we select the overall mesh right here, you'll notice that it's really well laid out. It's all within the 1 and 0 UV space, and he's looking pretty good right there on the grid where he should be, and we have a nice clean mesh to work with for painting a hair map or a fur map or a fur description, and that's what we're going to do. So anyway, that's what it looks like here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I think just to simplify things a little bit before we get started, let's grab these. These are curves which the GUI is made up of, and if I go here and turn off all of that, basically, I just have some clusters. These little C's indicate clusters, so don't worry about that for now. However, what I might want to do is I might want to turn those curves back on a little bit, and I may want to say, I think what I'll do is we'll get more of this mouth area. I'm going to open up his mouth there, kind of like that, and I'm going to grab the teeth, and I think I'll grab the tongue. I'll grab these lower teeth, and I think I can come back here and grab that tonsil. Okay, and the eyes. I want to get the eyes in there, so I'm going to go ahead and just go display, hide, and we're going to hide those selections so that basically we can just work with this mesh, all right, with nothing else getting in our way. Now you'll see a couple of joints there and whatnot. Don't worry about that. A couple of locators. What we want to do is just sort of get rid of these again. So I'm going to go to show, and I'm going to turn off those NURBS curves. All right, so there's Boris. Okay, well, what do we do first? Obviously, we want to paint some hair on Boris. And he has just a scalp there. And the easiest way to do this is just to make sure that you're in your rendering menu set, come over to fur, and we're going to attach a fur description, and we're going to hit new. Okay? So I'm going to hit new. And usually what happens by default, you'll see some spiky things coming out here. And if I go over into the attribute editor, I'm going to come up with a couple of different folders here. And I want to navigate over to my fur description. Okay? And that's essentially this right here, everything that we did when we attached that new fur description. And by default, it's called fur description 1. So I might want to name this something more like Boris Fur, say 1 or something like that. Or something more descriptive, Boris Fur 1. I think since this is a tutorial, I'll just name it tutorial. Okay? And then as I go up if I do another map, I can always rename this as 2 or 3 or whatever. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. And I think on this map width and height, we can make this any size we want, but I'm going to leave this at 256 for now, just for a moment, so I can show you a couple of things of what's happening over here. Because we created that node, we have a fur feedback node. Okay, and this just tells us a little bit about, the overall fur feedback, where it's in space. And this right here, this shape node, gives us some options for the viewport over here. So if I want to increase the hair, say I want to sort of paint a special map on here, I might want to bring this up to, say, 128 or 256. I think I'll go for 128 for the moment. Okay, and there it is, and that gives me a little bit better indication of what hair got attached by default. Okay, and if I clear this from color feedback, now it's just sort of giving, I can't really see what's happening color wise, and this is just in the viewport. This is not affecting the render. Okay, important thing to note, that this shape node just lets us see what's going on in here. So I'm going to go ahead and enable color feedback. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do there. In this case, I want to look at Boris Fur right here, and you'll notice where your base color and your tip color are all the same. I'm going to go ahead and just because of what we're doing right now, I'll set these two like a distinguishable color. You could go with a blue, or I think I'll just go with a red, because red seems to be a really good color just to kind of tell what's going on in here. And now we're not concerned with anything else in here. We have this description created, and now we want to edit this. Okay, so let's do that. If I spin around the object here, you can see where hair is basically coming out from every point, on this mesh. And we don't necessarily want that. So what I might want to do is come over here and just select the mesh, and then make sure you're in your rendering menu set. Come up into fur, and we want to paint fur attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And when you do that, you're going to get a paint fur attributes tool settings menu. And really, we're not painting the inclination right now. What we're painting is the baldness, because we sort of want to define the areas where we want hair and where we don't want hair. And you can see where Maya has sort of painted this surface all white, indicating that, there's fur coming out of every point on this surface, which is cool. I may want to set my map up to a standard 1024. I mean, you could use 2048 if you want, or 4096. It just depends on how detailed you want to get, but usually 1024 is a good choice. Okay, and what I want to do is make sure that this fur description matches what I'm working on. Okay, so this fur description, if you can create as many as you want, but essentially you want to make sure you always look at this. These two are important whenever you're working with this paint fur attributes tool. Okay, so just be aware of that. So always good to look for. Now I'm going to move this out of the way for a second, And let's take a look at Boris. With the tool active right now, you'll have a couple of different properties over here. And if you come down under your display section right here, you'll see that you also have a color feedback, okay? And the color feedback is actually showing you what you're painting onto your mesh. When I turn this off, you can see our default Lambert on there. But when I turn the color feedback for this particular tool on, it's all white, meaning that it's covering all of this area. Now, by default, this is what Maya will do, and technically I don't want hair all over everywhere. So an easy way to fix that is just to take our value from, say, 1, which is pure white, down to, say, like 0, which is pure black. And I want to go ahead and flood this entire model. And as you can see, because I have color feedback on, everything went away. And that's good, because what we'll do now is we're going to bring this value back up to 1, and we're going to start painting some hair onto the model. For example, if I just sort of hit my command and my left mouse button, I use those two the most when I'm dealing with a mesh and painting hair like this with the artisan tool. So I use the scroll a lot in the middle to get in and out, and my command, or on the Mac or on the PC it might be different. I don't know what it is. I don't use the PC for Maya, but Control, Option, whatever you guys got. Okay, so let's say I want to paint a mohawk or something on Boris. All I have to do is really just maybe hit my click on my B key and just left mouse click and just sort of make this tool bigger or smaller. And in this case, I think I'll stick with it about right there. And because I'm at a value of 1, that means I'm going to be painting hair on here. Okay, so I might click, add a little hair there, click, add a little hair there. If I wanted a little coming off the side here, I could just sort of paint some on either side. All right, and maybe just continue this center hair down here, kind of down to about there. All right, so now I have a semi-weird mohawk on Boris. You can paint whatever you want on here now, and you'll notice where the hairs sort of stand straight up, and that's because there's options for styling this depending on what you're doing later. But for the moment, I think I'll just paint some hair on the top of his head there, give him a nice mohawk. All right, and just because I want to show you how to make some corrections, I'm going to press B on the keyboard and left mouse click, set my brush down a little bit, and come in here and maybe paint in, like a mustache or something, a goatee, I don't know, whatever. But I'm going to just sort of click on there and paint some stuff around. Left mouse click, paint a little bit, and yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, well, we'll go with that for the moment, or actually, let's do this. Let's add some sideburns. All right, I'm just going to come into this side and bring some sideburns down here. All right. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just painting a map, okay? No big deal. But the important thing about this is that I'm painting on a really good mesh. You're going to have to make sure that your UVs are laid out really well for this process to work really well. And, this is a simplified sort of explanation of this, so keep that in mind as well. But this is the root of what you really need to know in order to get a good map going. Okay, so anyway, enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and stick with this for the moment, and we'll go on to the next stage. We want to sort of just pick the parts and, take a look at what happened back here. You can get inside of the head here, and we can look around, see what's going on. It's good to know this whole surface and just sort of navigate around it and, kind of find out what's going on there. Okay, well, once you get what you like, go ahead and go to File, and we're going to go to Save Scene, and there it is. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get out of our tool by hitting our selection, and just sort of selecting anywhere in the viewport there. And there it is. You can see where, I've put some hair on Boris now, or some fur, excuse me. Let's do a quick render and see how awful it looks. Okay, so essentially that's what you're going to end up with after doing this just once. But let's do this. Because we need to start increasing the density of this fur, let's take a look at that next. If we go to the fur feedback group, you'll notice you have a tab called Boris Fur, blah, blah. And we're not going to be able to do anything with the baldness because that's what we just painted. We just painted the areas of the head we want to be defined. And so technically, this baldness control is not going to work anymore. And it's not going to be any more importance to us because we're basing this hair map on what we just created. And I'm going to show you where that is in a minute. But anyway, we could do something with the length. We could bring the length out a little more. Because if we're going to style this, we may want to, bring these guys down a little bit, make it look a little better. So I can see some stuff in this mesh that I probably want to fix before I save a map or something like that. So I might want to select the model again and just come up into Fur, go to my Paint Attributes tool, go ahead and click on my options there, and always make sure that you're working on, the map that you think you're going to be working on. In this case, it's our baldness map. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and set my value back down to 0, and I think I'll just take some of these guys off right here. And sometimes you have to get up here really close to see kind of where these little hairs are coming out from. And a lot of times it's just, getting in here and really paying attention to, kind of like the smaller areas. All right. And I might as well just get rid of this beard here. And then we'll sort of go in and look at how we can mess around with this map in Photoshop. It's a real easy deal. Okay, I'm going to back off a little there. And there's Boris. I think we'll bring the length down a little bit. And I'll go ahead and save this. So I'll go to File and Save Scene. And boom, I'll get out of my tool over here. And yeah. Okay, so there's Boris. Let's give him another quick render just to see what things look like. Okay, so it does look awful. There's no doubt about it, but we can easily make that better by just selecting our hair right there, our fur. And I want to come over into this feedback, into the density level of the map. Okay, right now it's only at 1,000, but I'm going to increase that by, say, 100,000. Okay, so I'll just add a couple of zeros in there, and I'll do another quick render. And there you go. Boris is looking way better. However, I do see, some hairs sticking out here that I don't see in here. Okay, so, you can sort of look at this as, well, where are they coming from? And in this case, we may have to get inside of the head here and do another adjustment. So I'm going to try and fix those really quick. So I'm going to basically come back up into Fur, and we're going to go to our Paint Fur Attributes tool, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on my baldness map, and there it is. And I'm going to get inside of this mesh, and I may want to paint it from the inside a little bit by that mouth area. Yeah, I think I can get back here. And I want to make sure that my value is set at black. And in this case, I might hit B on the keyboard, left mouse click, bring my brush up a little bit, and sort of take care of the inside portion of this mesh. And I might come around to the outside and, just sort of paint over that area a little bit more, seeing if I can get rid of that. Because this is one of the most frustrating things, about the whole Maya process of painting, these hair maps. But I'm going to go ahead and say that's good. I'm going to go to File, Save Scene, and we'll get out of our tool here. And I'll get out of that. And I'll do one more render just to see if that helped anything. So it's really going to be a back and forth process of getting in and out of these areas, and sometimes coming at it from the inside to get rid of those specks. So, okay, great. Well, I have a good map going here. So let's take a look at that in Photoshop real quick, just to kind of show you what the round trip is. I think what I'll do is I'll go to Photoshop and I'll go to File, Open, and we'll go to that Boris. Let's see, where would he be? Well, he's going to be in my master projects under Boris tutorial. And in this case, it's going to be under render data, fur, and the fur attribute maps. Okay? And that's where you're going to find this IFF file, which we just created inside of Maya. So we can bring that into Photoshop. And you can see where here's our render. And basically I'm looking at this like, here's the mouth down here, these are the sideburns coming off the head, this is like the mohawk area up here, and that's about it. Okay, so that's what your map is going to look like in Photoshop. Now let's just do something weird. Let's just say we started painting on this map inside of Photoshop. If I choose like a solid white, that's going to be basically the same thing we were doing. I'll go ahead and just choose a brush and maybe just, downsize that to about there. And let's say that this is the mohawk coming off the top of the head. Here's the little pieces on the side, and here's the sideburns. I might be able to tell exactly what is happening for the chin area, or where the chin area might be here. But, basically what you want to do is create a UV snapshot of the UVs, okay, in Boris's head there. And if I bring Boris back up here, well, that's not the one. Let's see. If I come back into Maya, if you select your mesh and come into your UV texture editor, you can just go ahead and go to your polygons and take a UV snapshot of that and save this out at like 1024 by 1024 so it matches up with your Photoshop document. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. I already have created a UV snapshot. If I could find it over here, here's my Boris hair snapshot. I'm going to drop that into Photoshop, and it's going to open up, and I can see the lines right here. What I might want to do is let's see if we can just take this. I'm going to see if I can drag and drop this over here, and I can't. It's because it's locked. But anyway, let's look at this UV snapshot for a second, and maybe just make it a little easier to see. We'll create a new layer, and we'll hit that and bring that layer down below here, and we'll make that layer black. So I'll just choose my black fill, drop in that layer, and there it is. Okay, so I can tell that the mouth area of Boris right here is kind of in the middle of here. So let's just at random mess around with this map. I'm going to go ahead and just choose my brush, and we'll go into the white, and we're going to paint some hair onto. I'm going to activate this. Let's get inside of here, and I'm going to just paint some hair onto the chin area down here, kind of like that. All right, and I'm hoping it doesn't cover the mouth. This will probably go on to the neck area, and as we can see here, the neck area is well, it's going to be between these UV seams, which that can be a problem later on, but let's just mess around with it the way it is now. Okay, so now that I have that on there, I'm going to just go ahead and I will save this. So I'll just go to File and Save, and that saved out the change, and I'm going to just close it out of Photoshop. We'll hide Photoshop for a sec. Well, now what I can do is come in and select this mesh and come up to Fur and update Fur Maps. And when I do that, you'll notice that we have some fur coming out the bottom area here where we painted that stripe. Okay, so there it is. All right. So that's essentially how you paint a map to map your fur. And that is, of course, onto a really well laid out mesh in the 0 to 1 UV space. Okay? So there you have it. It's as easy as that. And obviously, it's a lot more complex than this because you're going to have a lot more controls to deal with here in order to style this hair. So essentially, you can select your hair there, come over into presets, and add any of these presets you want to check out. So let's just say like I add the mouse preset to him right there. Okay. Well, there's what he's going to look like with the mouse preset. I'll go ahead and do a quick render. And obviously, even in this case, the mouse preset density, right now we're at like 50,000. So let's just say we bring that up by another 0. Let's go ahead and save that one. In this preset, the larger the density, the higher the render times you might have. But then again, the higher quality of effect you're going to get with your fur. Okay? So, yeah, let's say we like that. Let's say we choose this hair again. I might have to choose it from over here. Let's say we take this preset and we do like, lion mane. All right. Let's replace it. And there it is. All right, there's the lion mane. So let's do a render on that because that might be funny. All right. So, with all of these different presets, you do have that option. And remember that we have a lot more things to deal with down in here. And two of the ones that you might really want to pay attention to are the base width. Like right now it's at a 0.050, where technically your base width should be more like 0.101. And then your tip width to a 0.003 or something like that. Okay? And that's going to help sort of make this fur look more like fur and less like sticks coming out from a face. Okay, you can see where that thinned it out quite a bit. So of course at this point you're going to have to concentrate on what your density levels are and take a look at, the 20,000 is typically not that much. 200,000, well, that'll probably get you in the ballpark. Just depending on what you do. Always be aware that density is going to be affected by, some of these different settings. All right. So there you go. Now you're going to have to come in here and paint out all of this area to black and sort of do some of those same painting maneuvers that I showed you earlier. Okay. So, hey, there you go. There you have it. That's kind of how to paint a fur map in Maya. And there you go. Hope you learned something. As always, read a book. Don't forget to be a good person, period. And hey, thanks for watching. And stop back because we'll probably continue on with some more tutorials about fur. Great. Thanks for watching.